thank you all so very much for your service and most importantly, your sacrifice.
Thank you for your service. Stay safe.
Thank you for protecting us and serving our country.
Our Truckers for Troops campaign continues today with an important conversation. We've been focusing all week on the ways in which OID's campaign provides support to active duty military and to veterans here at home, whether that be through care packages or by donating to the Veterans Community Project. And by extension, that's what we're going to talk about today with Lee Cooper. Lee is a Veterans Service Officer for the Larimer County, Colorado Veterans Service Office, and he works with veterans every day, obviously, helping them in a number of ways. Looking forward to that conversation here in just a moment. But, of course, a quick reminder that the Truckers for Troops campaign continues through Sunday. There are several ways to show your support, either by joining OOIDA or renewing your membership for $35, with 10% of dues going toward Truckers for Troops, which OOIDA then matches, or you can call 816-229-5791, or you can log on to ooida.com/T4T. That's ooida.com/T, the number 4T. Every little bit, of course, helps there. And with that, let's turn things over to Lee Cooper of the Larimer County, Colorado Veterans Service Office. Truckers for Troops Week continues here on Trucking with OIDA, and we're joined on the line now by Lee Cooper, Veteran Service Officer for the Larimer County, Colorado Veterans Service Office. Lee, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Always good to talk about veterans.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to hearing your perspective on some of this. And we reached out to you. We spoke with Jennifer Siebold earlier in the week. She is with the Veterans Community Project. They are obviously filling a need there, not just in Longmont, Colorado, but in other locations throughout the country. And I certainly want to talk about that and kind of how we got to where we are now that we need people like VCP kind of stepping up. But before that, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do there in Larimer County.
Sure. Well, like you said, I am the Veteran Service Officer for Larimer County. Here in Colorado, by state statute, every county has to have an office or function similar to what we do and be available to assist veterans in our state and connect them and advise them with the VA benefits that they've earned as a function of their active duty service. So we work with veterans. We work with next of kin. We work with dependents, spouses, and survivors. So anybody who has to touch fingers with any kind of VA benefit, we're kind of their first stop. Myself, I've been in the job since 2019. I am a U.S. Army veteran. I served from 2005 to 2013. Did 2 deployments, one in Iraq and another one in the Horn of Africa. Anywhere else I can go with this?
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's important that you point that out, I think, because this is, you clearly have a stake in this, in helping these folks who are in need of help, because the VA system, I think it is safe to say, can be messy and complicated and difficult to, navigate there.
And frankly, it can be very intimidating, and that's what keeps a lot of veterans, at arm's length from it.
Did you experience any of that? And I think you said you got out in 2013. Did you kind of experience any of that at the time?
Here in northern Colorado, we've got a very active veteran community. So when I got out, I was basically, I tucked right into it. I knew who my veteran service officer was. I'm sitting in her role right now because she went and retired and I applied for the position. And I did not have any real negative obstacles or experiences accessing the services.
Which is good.
So it's my goal to extend that positive experience with to as many veterans as I can. Certainly, the veterans that we see, they come from all walks of life. They've experienced, the VA at its worst and at its best. Certainly the folks that came back from Vietnam, a lot of them, immediately went to the VA and had really terrible experiences, and turned their back on it for good reason, and never revisited the issue until later in life when they really needed it. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I'm going to ask you a difficult question to answer. And I don't know if you'll have the answer, and that's quite all right as well, but I'm sure you've put some thought into this, in that the system is not working for too many people. Again, I think that's probably safe to say.
Mm-hmm.
How did we get to this point where organizations like the VCP are necessary to, again, fill in some of the gaps that are there? Is it just a decades-long bureaucratic situation where we've thrown up so much red tape and it's gotten kind of caught up, in all the problems here? Or, how do we get here, I guess, is my short question, and I'm sure the answer is not going to be short, but, what do you think there?
Oh, my goodness. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
Here's kind of what my take on this. The VA is in many ways a lot like the American tax system. The American taxpayer system, your income tax, it's so incredibly complicated that a lot of people feel like they can't navigate it themselves. They hire accountants, they hire tax specialists to assist them with that. Now, why is it so complicated? One of the reasons it's so complicated is because Congress has incrementally, over time, tried to make it more fair. They didn't rebuild the whole system. They cobbled it together and tried to tweak it every year, every session, trying to make it accessible and more fair to taxpayers. And the side effect of that is that it got ridiculously complicated. The VA is in many ways like that. So the Congress responds to different needs after every war, after every military conflict, every wave of veterans that enters the system comes from a different space. And so Congress goes in there and they try and tweak it. And they try and make it more fair. And in some cases they do, and some veterans have a better experience, but the next generation comes in with a different point of view, a different history. Everything changes. So Congress is always playing catch up. And I think that's part of the problem.
It sounds to me, just from hearing you, express that, and I've heard this elsewhere too, and I think, you share that opinion with quite a lot of folks out there, in that the system does not work. It's not working right now. It sounds like you would be an advocate for maybe just a complete overhaul. Again, I know we're not going to fix the VA system here on the phone today, but I guess, is that what it would take? Would it take an overhaul, just kind of almost starting from scratch to get to where we need to be?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
I don't think so, because once you do a whole overhaul, and then, boom, in the next couple of decades, God forbid, we get into another war, and you can't foresee the needs of that next generation of veterans. You do your best, but I don't think that's the problem. I think a more a more likely solution, I don't know if it's a solution you're looking for, but a more effective approach is more engagement with the communities. And I think that's where folks like VCP kind of step in. I don't think it's necessarily the role of the Department of Defense to take care of soldiers after they get home. We've established the VA to try and do that as best we can. But fundamentally, I don't think it's the government's role, but I think society, the country as a whole, has an obligation to the veterans, instead of just pushing it off to, well, we pay our taxes, let the government do this. And that is why, our office, I really attempt to engage the community, nonprofits, volunteers, as often as I can, because they're the stakeholders in the community. The VA is not really a stakeholder in our local community here in northern Colorado. They're a major player, but they're not a stakeholder.
Yeah.
The community is.
And
so I think we need to engage the country.
Yeah, that's
Does that
interesting.
make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. It makes perfect sense. And as I hear you talking there, I think back to, you mentioned the Vietnam War, and those folks who came home at that time were treated horribly.
Sure.
Across the board. And that feels in a way like maybe a turning point to a degree. And then it feels like maybe we haven't gotten back to where we need to be in terms of taking care of these men and women who sacrificed their lives and sacrificed so much.
Sure.
Which is, it's a shame.
I mean, the country has come a long way since the Vietnam era. And certainly my generation owes a tremendous debt to the Vietnam veterans, because they suffered through this. And we, my generation of veterans benefited from the turmoil that they went through. But it took a long time for the country to come to terms with how poorly it had treated its warfighters.
Yeah. You talk about the community engagement. I would imagine that when you do reach out, you get a pretty positive response from folks.
Yes. I mean, almost universally.
Yeah. What, let's talk about your day-to-day. And I know every day is going to be different, and every veteran who comes to you looking for some assistance is going to be different, and everybody has their own, different issues and things that they need help with. But what are some of the more common problems, I suppose, that you are hearing about day in and day out?
Well, I play a rather unique role in the Colorado VSO system, in that in our county, I'm appointed by our county commissioners, but we've restructured our office in that my role is almost exclusively outreach and community liaison for our office. So I maintain an accreditation. I go through all the training. I have weekly meetings with our team, but I personally don't do claims issues.
Gotcha.
So that, my community interaction actually frees up our staff. We got 4 full-time people in our office, and that's what they do. And so they don't have to split their time between trying to get to the VFW meetings, the American Legion meetings, hit up the universities and the schools, and make sure you're touching as many different, segments of the area where you're going to run into veterans as you can. And that's a model that's worked really well for us, but nobody else in Colorado is operating under that model.
Is that right?
That being said, in terms of some of the issues that we see on a regular basis, unfortunately, some of the most difficult issues that our office engages with are when we have a spouse who comes in and says that my husband is in hospice, or my spouse just passed away. He was in the military. He never talked to the VA. He never did anything. What was he entitled to? Or if he's in hospice, or he's in the hospital now, he was in the Army in the 90s, I think. Is he entitled to VA health care? And those are really, really hard, because in many cases, because of the time it takes to get people into the system, I don't want to say it's too late, but it can make it very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And it's especially heartbreaking when a veteran or a spouse comes in who might be entitled to survivor benefits, but the veteran never touched with the VA, and he may have left his surviving wife, high and dry because he didn't do what he was supposed to have done.
Right.
When he could. So, that's a big part of our message and my message when I'm out there in the community to the veterans themselves. It's like, you may feel like you don't deserve it, but by God, your family does.
Yeah.
Take the burden off of them. Do everything you can to help your family by helping yourself.
I imagine they respond to that pretty well.
Oh, yeah. You see the light bulbs come on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's not just about me. It's about my loved ones.
Yep.
Yeah, and taking care of them. So much, let's talk about the Veterans Community Project a little bit.
Yep.
And obviously we are, we've got this campaign going on, raising money for them. They do great work.
They do.
You talk about the community engagement. I imagine VCP is part of that equation. Can you just talk a little bit about what your relationship is with VCP and kind of how they're stepping in and helping fill a need?
Oh, absolutely. When a veteran family or a family comes into our office and we can assist them with VA-related benefits, that's great. We do everything we can. But frequently they come in with additional, needs that the VA just doesn't cover. And sometimes it's housing. Sometimes it's a car repair, it's groceries, it's something relatively small to get them over a hump, in their lives. It's like, I need my car to go to work, but the transmission's going out, the tires are going bald, whatever the case may be. And that's where we have, our network of community partners that we can call on. And sometimes we call on multiple partners to help one veteran. And VCP has been a very important part of that engagement. Their community down there in Longmont, they're not actually in our county, but we don't discriminate geographically. We help anybody they send to us. We send people to them. The whole idea is trying to get a wraparound for veterans that find themselves in a really tough spot. And, that's how it works.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. We talked with Jennifer about this and Chris Admire, he's the executive director here in Kansas City where we are.
Yeah.
But they talked about, the tiny home aspect of it, I think often gets the headlines, and for good reason, because they're putting a roof over someone's head who, needs one. And that's a great aspect of it. The thing that always strikes me anytime I have a conversation with somebody who's involved with VCP is their commitment to all the services, all the other things that you're kind of alluding to there, from mental health to physical health to, veterinary services if they have a pet, this and that. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on.
Absolutely.
And when you see a group doing something like that, that's got to inspire you. I would imagine that there are folks out there that are willing to help, and not just willing to help, that will do anything that they can, to help these folks who, again, sacrifice so much for us.
It doesn't just inspire me. I mean, that's what fuels me. That's what keeps me going. I mean, their energy is infectious. So, they're heavily involved in the veteran stand downs that we have throughout, northern Colorado to assist homeless veterans, even if they can't actually accommodate a homeless veteran for whatever reason. They're there. They're showing up. They're marshaling resources. And it's not just physical resources or money or things. Sometimes it's experience. So, if you've got a veteran that's struggling with some particular issue, they need a specialist that's not related to the VA, whatever the case may be, I can reach out to any of these folks and say, who are your contacts? It's a tightly woven web of specialists and generalists and resources that I just feel like like a spider web. I can pull one thread, and somebody is going to respond.
Yeah. Is there any one? And I asked you this earlier, and maybe I'll kind of ask it in a little bit different way, but all the services that, VCP and these other organizations provide, again, there's so many great ones out there that are dedicated to doing whatever they can to help these folks.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one prevailing or maybe underlying issue, I guess, under all of this? Is it a mental health situation? Yeah. Okay. I rang a bell there, or hit a button or something. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a nexus, I think, between mental health and substance abuse, and sometimes it can be difficult to differentiate one from the other. They're kind of intertwined. And I'm thinking specifically about some of the more difficult chronic issues in our community with veterans that clearly have mental health issues, but the resources, they require extensive inpatient help, or in some cases, even institutionalization that doesn't exist. So, way back in the day, we had mental health institutions that, absolutely had human rights issues, and abuses happened. And those went away.
Yeah.
So now we have folks, and I'm not just talking about veterans here, but veterans are certainly part of this population. We have people that are being treated, but they're not being treated by mental health professionals. They're being treated by prisons.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's like, we've got a brand new and fairly robust veterans treatment court here in our county that just opened earlier this year, just started earlier this year, which we're very proud of. But unfortunately, for some of these really difficult mental health issues, the judicial system is the only place that exists for them.
Yeah. And
I think we've got to come to terms with that as a country.
That's a big thing. That's a big thing to grapple with. I think you're right in so many respects there. And again, it just speaks to this notion that we are, I don't want to use the word, well, maybe I should use the word failing. We are failing these men and women who have come home and are in need of some help. And that is what is heartbreaking for me, looking at these things from the outside and these conversations that I have with folks like yourself. There aren't enough people who realize, I suppose, maybe that this is such an issue. And I know that's one reason we're talking today, is to get that message out that there is such a need. But I guess why do you think that is? Why do you think people are? Is it just they don't know, or they've got their own stuff going on? Again, these are big questions, and I know we're not going to solve this.
Yeah,
sitting
and
here,
I don't know that I have. I don't know if I have the answer to that. I mean, we basically emptied our mental institutions, in the middle part of the last century, and did away with them. And maybe that was an overreaction to a very serious human rights problem within those institutions. Yeah. Maybe the pendulum has swung too far,
which it tends to do.
Which it tends to do. I mean, this is the natural flow of things, but it's heartbreaking when I'm out on the street talking to a veteran who has, clearly has severe cognitive issues, can't take care of himself, but there is no way, he can't be taken to treatment against his will,
right?
Unless he breaks the law somewhere. In some cases, that may mean somebody gets hurt. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I hate to see, he turns his back and he walks away from me and he's mumbling to himself. And it's a completely You feel completely helpless. There's nowhere to go with this, and you just hope that you don't, read about it in the news in the next day or two.
Yeah, well, a remedy to helplessness is doing something and being proactive. So I will ask you that, because there are folks listening to this who, again, are going to hopefully contribute to our campaign that helps VCP and active duty military as well. But what do you think the rest of us out here can do to improve things, either maybe on a micro or a macro level? What does that look like in terms of coming together and helping?
Well, this is something, it boils down to the individual. What do you have follow your passion, find some way to give back to your community in some way, no matter how small. But the other side of this is, get engaged politically. Vote, run for office, yeah. This is where things change.
Well, and reach out to your lawmakers too, and make sure.
And reach out to your lawmakers too, even if they're not, even if they're on the other side of the aisle from where you are. Talk to their staffs, talk to the lawmakers, take those opportunities, get down to the granular level with some of these things. Talk about how you see the problem, how it's affecting your life, your community. Personalize it. Yeah.
It's great advice. Lee, did we forget anything? Do you have any final thoughts here before we let you get back to your day job there and helping folks?
No, I don't think so. I really appreciate the opportunity. I hope I was, coherent as I could be.
Yes, you are. Yeah. No, we really appreciate it. Again, this is one of these things, and your point of, I think the takeaway here is the community engagement part, which I think is so important in that everybody's aware of the problem and people are taking action one way or another, and there's so many different ways to do it. So we thank you for your efforts and your work there in Larimer County and elsewhere. And I know your impact obviously, expands out from there, but we really appreciate that. We really appreciate your time, and thank you so much.
My pleasure, Scott. You take care.
The through line through all the conversations that we've been having this week, I think, is community engagement and showing your support in any way you can for our veterans here at home, and again for the care packages that get sent overseas as well. We continue with this campaign because it is making a difference in people's lives, and that only happens because of you and your contributions. So with that, we would ask that if you can spare $1, $5, whatever it may be, you can call 816-229-5791 during normal business hours. If you call after business hours, just leave a message and somebody will get back with you. Again, that phone number is 816-229-5791. Or if you want to go the other route, you can log on to ooida.com/T4T. That is ooida.com/T, the number 4T. Every little bit helps, and we appreciate you for everything that you do and appreciate any help that you can give here for this Truckers for Troops campaign this week. We know that the veterans and active duty military out there surely do appreciate it as well. So thank you very much, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks for listening. Today's episode of Trucking with OOIDA was brought to you by a dedicated team of people. That includes Jim Fetzer, Tennille Flick, and Kim Boren.
You can listen to new episodes and extended interviews on your favorite podcast platform and on the OOIDA YouTube page. Please subscribe while you're there. If you've got thoughts, we'd love to hear them. Call us at 1-800-324-6856 and leave a message, or send us an email to podcast@ooida.com, and we might include it on the show.